So, Rosemary, I am so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me. You have had such an extraordinary journey, not stepping into a gym until you were 71 and then becoming a group fitness instructor and then a national record holder. And now you're a world champion powerlifter at 86, which is just amazing. And you've been an inspiration to me ever since we met back on the platform at Nationals in 2019, I think that was, right?
Yes, it was.
So I'm so excited to get into how all of this unfolded for you and what it's meant to you along the way. So I guess let's start there. You were really active and athletic earlier in life, but got a little bit sedentary later on and spent quite a bit of time not necessarily being active. And at age 71, when most people think they're too old to do anything, you stepped into a gym for the first time. Was there a particular moment or conversation or something that happened? What made you decide to take that leap at 71?
Well, I was walking my dogs and felt out of breath. Decided, this is not good. So I talked to my family, and some of the members were Zumba instructors, and they suggested, try Zumba Gold. It's slower and less impact, and it's a good way to get started. So I found an instructor, and I signed up at the gym for her class, and was not too happy I had to pay $39. I'm very frugal. So in order to get the most out of my money, instead of just one class a week, I started doing every senior class they had. But I had not signed up for a trainer when I did the initial sign up, and the club offered a free training session, but I had to take it within a certain period of time. So not being one to let my money go away, I signed up. And I got a wonderful man named Eric Snow, who changed my life. He started me with 7.5-pound weights, and within a year we were doing triple that. Plus I had lost weight. I felt much better. My blood pressure was down, and it was a good thing. So I had to keep up training. I was not going to give that up. So he suggested that I sign up for a National Academy of Sports Medicine personal trainer course so that I could then either train others or become a group fitness instructor and get my training sessions at the corporate rate, which was like half of what I was paying. So, good thing. I did it in 6 months and passed the first time, which shocked me. And then the club hired me, my home club where I was already a member. And then I got into Silver Sneakers Classic, Silver Sneakers Circuit, and also Aqua. So I had an array of classes which kept me busy all the time. And also I kept up my training sessions, of course. That was the goal. Then we got some new equipment at the club, racks for squats and the platform for deadlift. And my trainer said, this is what we're going to do today. And oh my goodness. Well, I decided that I would try for a goal of 145 pounds as a deadlift, because that's the weight I had gotten down to from where I started initially. And he says, oh, you'll do that today.
So that was your
I
body
did.
weight at that point. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay.
So I did. I lifted that day, 145 pounds, no problem. So we kept that on, gradually increasing over time and getting the blisters. So I learned how to treat my hands. And then he was going to move to a different club because it was closer to home. He had a really long commute. And he said, well, let's see what we can do today. So we ended up doing over 200 pounds that day. I mean, this had been over a period of time. It was not 145 one day and then 200 the next. No, but that was exciting. So then after he left, I went to one trainer who, not a good fit, then another one, not a good fit. So a person who had been at another club in the Bay Area transferred up to the Beaverton area, and he had powerlifting experience, and he was a strength and conditioning coach, which is the perfect thing for an older person coming into lifting. He didn't let me lift right away. We worked just on basic exercises. And then finally, he let me deadlift in December of that year. We were lifting for about a month, and he says, well, how about training for a meet? Would you like to compete? And I was horrified. I couldn't imagine my doing anything like that. But he said, no, seriously, you can do it. So I said, okay. And I trained for that, just deadlift only, and I did it. But it was a new experience. I had never been to a powerlifting meet in my life. And there were all these people, and here I was up on the stage, and this loud music, which is not my style, and judges, which I had not seen before, but of course we had gone through the commands in my training, so I knew what I was supposed to do there. And got up there and looked out at the back of the room where I was visualizing my first trainer, who had sent me a lovely note that I had trained and I had seen my failures and my successes, and that he thought I could do a really good job. So I did. And I set records for a 78-year-old, soon to be 79 in 5 days. And I was hooked by then. So then we went back to mobility training, functional training for hips, because I was really not in a good set to do squats and bench. So we went through that mobility training, and then I started squatting and bench. And so by December of that year, I did full power
So
and
you were
set
really,
records.
yeah, taking off with powerlifting, and I want to come back to that. But I want to just talk for a minute, going back to your sort of initial experiences. First of all, how old were you the first time you deadlifted? How long after you'd started training at a gym did you actually deadlift?
It was probably 8 years.
Okay, so you were close to 78 the first time you deadlifted, 77-ish, something like that.
Well, the first time I deadlifted in a competition. Oh, I deadlifted.
In training, yeah, the
Uh,
first time you
in,
actually picked
in
up a
training, it
barbell
was I
for
would
the
say
first time.
77,
Okay,
and then 3 months later he left, so I
all right.
started at 77, and then at 78 started doing the competitions.
How did that
So
feel to you the first time you picked up a barbell? I mean, were you intimidated? I know a lot of one of the things I deal with and try to help women with a lot is this feeling of intimidation, just being in the weight room at all, and obviously you would overcome that because you had started with, dumbbell training and I presume machines and things, but how did it feel to approach a barbell for the first time?
it was very interesting. It felt strange, having iron in my hands that I'm going to pick up with my whole body, really. But I view most of my exercises as stick figures. So when I'm told how my back is supposed to be or how my knees are supposed to be to make a lift, I'm visualizing that as I'm doing the lift. So I put my hands on the bar, and at first I lifted conventional. So that was just straight lifting up and doing it properly with, of course, proper breathing. And eventually it got to be routine. So I could then add more weight and get along really fine that way. But it was kind of fun because, look at, I can do this. This old lady is lifting heavy
felt,
stuff.
felt pretty tough, huh?
Yeah. And it's, nothing is impossible. Some things are just a little work.
That's right. And for people that are new to lifting or just starting to get interested in it, there are a couple of different ways to deadlift, which Rosemary was just alluding to. There's conventional, which is your legs are together and you just basically bend down and pick up the bar. And then there's something called sumo, which is when your legs are spread apart, and they're quite
And
different
that's what I
ways.
took.
Do you do sumo now?
Well, I started doing sumo with the new trainer, Evan, the powerlifting trainer, and he taught me sumo. So I did sumo for 5 years, and then I kept on, when I came back to the platform last year, I did sumo. Then this year, when I started with a remote coach, I started doing conventional. That's what he had me doing. So when I went to nationals this year, I lifted conventional.
Preference between the two, conventional versus sumo?
Sumo.
You like what do you like more about it? Because it's a more technical lift, sumo, and it uses different
Well,
muscles. But
thing is, I have real intention in the setup because I want to be stable. And then in the lockout, it shows much better. I mean, I can get a better lockout without leaning way back. And I don't want to lean way back. And that's why we have spotters in back. I
yeah,
remember my doctor seeing one of my meets and saying, "Why are all those men around you?" And I said, "They're for my safety." And the man, particularly behind me, was there in case I fell over.
yeah, which people do. Sometimes they lose their balance, and also hyperextending at the top can make your knees actually bend. So people don't realize like that you go too far back, and you're gonna get red lights just because your knees can't help it; they bend. So.
Exactly,
You have beautiful
exactly.
form. You have beautiful form when you lift. And I'm going
Thank
to
you.
come back to that too. But I have one more question
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
I'm going back to this over and over again because I'm sure people are going to hear you who are thinking about getting started or are just getting started with lifting. And you mentioned that you had this great trainer when you started, and then you had a couple that weren't good fits before you found someone who was. How did you know they weren't good fits? And what advice would you give to someone who's a little bit older who is trying to find a trainer to work with?
Okay, the first one that was not a good fit had an ego problem, and he had me doing a warm up that he did with his body. He was close to 6 feet, so naturally his legs are going to be longer. It was an over and back over a little stanchion, bar, whatever. Well, I noticed when I went to church that weekend, I couldn't put my foot down stable. So I happened to take a yoga class with the wife of my first trainer and told her about it. And she said, "That doesn't sound right. If he's not good for you, you should fire him." So I did. Didn't sign up for any more sessions, and I said, I think I need to work with someone else. So the next person was a young trainer, and I ended up in the hospital. We were training, and he didn't watch me carefully. He was putting the weights away, and I sat down on a bench nearby, and suddenly I was on the floor. The maintenance tech happened to be nearby, so he came over to me and talked to me. Then there was a code blue, and soon the EMTs and the ambulance arrived. So they looked me over and, didn't have to do CPR or anything. They asked me the date and who the president was and did I like him. And I said, "I don't discuss religion, sex, or politics with people I don't know." So they said, "She's okay."
She's good.
So, but we did go to the hospital and I stayed overnight. It was fine. It was stress and dehydration.
I was going
I
to say,
had
what
simply
happened? So did
fainted.
you passed out? Okay, you fainted. All right.
Yeah. So stress and dehydration.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fine. And so far it hasn't happened again because I monitor my heart rate and I monitor how I feel. I'm a little better in tune with my body now by now.
Yeah, and to be
So
fair, people get worried about getting injured or, that lifting is dangerous, and lifting is actually one of the safest athletic activities there is, and that, that anyone can get dehydrated and stressed and faint. Happens to people all the time, right?
it can
So
happen on the treadmill for goodness sakes, the way
exactly
some
right.
people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the
So,
point is that you didn't feel like this trainer was really paying attention to you.
well, my first trainer said he should have noticed and you should have noticed. So I now use an app on my watch called Waterlogged. And so I put in the number of ounces of water I want to drink a day and the time period, and it has a little drop of water that will tell me, you're not up to the number you set, so drink.
Those apps are great. I use a water tracking app as well.
And of course, I have my protein.
Well, protein for anyone over 40, but the older we get, the more protein we need because
Oh, indeed.
we don't
Yeah.
synthesize it enough. So, how much protein are you currently eating a day?
About 134 grams.
So, I think you mentioned that the coach that you ended up with, that strength and
The
conditioning coach, was
the Evan, he was a, you know, strength and conditioning coach, and he also did powerlifting
Mhm.
because he would actually compete in meets with the team. And he just had a good way of coaching the lifts, basic good fundamentals,
Yeah.
because the idea was to do the lift properly so you don't get injured.
You picked him, or one of the reasons you tried him out was you said because he was a strength and conditioning coach specifically. You saw that as one of his credentials and thought this is something I should be looking for. I'm just trying to,
Yes.
identify things that folks that are looking for someone to work with can be looking for because there's so many folks out there, right? There's personal trainers,
Oh,
there's coaches, there's and not to say that everybody that has credentials after their name is good because they're not necessarily. And there's some
no,
personal trainers that are not strength and conditioning coaches that are terrific, and there's strength and conditioning coaches that are not so great. But
exactly.
that's something that people can be looking for. And was there anything else that you were looking for that helped you sort of hone in or realize like, yeah, this is the coach for me. This is going to work for me.
He didn't treat me as an aged person. I was in a team with 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, and then finally, after another year, a 60-year-old joined our team. So I liked the team atmosphere that every one of us was doing the same thing. Only I got the lightest weights compared to, the 35-year-old or whatever who could lift 500 pounds.
Yeah, so it seems like it's kind of a balance, or at least it was for you, because one of the trainers you'd worked with, you felt like was treating you, you said he made me do the same thing that he did, and, that wasn't going to work for you. So on the one hand, you need someone who's thinking about who you are and your age, but also someone who's not going to treat you like an old lady. They're going to respect you as
Exactly.
an athlete, right? So it's a balance.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back a little bit because since we're talking about sort of sports, and you did some pretty cool stuff as a young one. Where did you grow up, Rosemary?
In Boston. And I went to girls' Latin school and Boston University. And I had been a dancer in my youth from age 6 through college. Sometimes I would be in a chorus line, and one summer the chorus line traveled with the state fairs along the East Coast. We were part of a thing called the World of Mirth, which was like the nightclub act for the state fair. And we had all the fancy costumes like Vegas with the feathers and all that sort of stuff.
How old were
And
you at this point? Like a teenager?
I was going into my senior year of high school, so 17. It was very interesting because we had 7 shows a day, very quick costume changes. And then I also did Army, Navy, USO. I was in a group that traveled to the veterans hospitals in the Boston area and performed for them. So that was doing something for people who had served us. So
Cool. And didn't you
that was
said you,
rewarding.
yeah, and didn't you say you had a dream of being a rockette for a while?
Well, that was my dream. That's why when I was dancing, I wanted to be a rockette. And, part of the chorus line was, like a rockette. But you needed to be 5'6" without heels in order to join. And 5'3" and 3/8 just didn't cut it.
Well, it cuts it for powerlifting, so it worked out.
Sure, sure. Yeah, but it didn't bother me for sailing. When I went to college, I had been sailing in summers, sailboat racing, and so I joined the Boston University sailing team as a crew because I was light and quick and strong. So I traveled with the team to various places, even Coast Guard Academy one time. They had to clear the men's room so that I could use the restroom. They had a man at parade rest outside so no one would come in.
Were you the only woman on the crew?
That weekend, yes.
Wow. It sounds kind of like you've been going against gender norms a little bit from the beginning. I mean, that's, you're not afraid to get among a bunch of guys and get on a sailboat and to do the thing, right? Which is,
No,
yeah, cool.
no, I was blessed with the abilities to do things, and why not? You know?
I feel the same way, but of course, a lot of women, especially, your generation, that wasn't as easy for some people to do. And it's, you've just been a badass since day one, it sounds like, doing all
Oh, and
kinds
you
of
know,
things.
I have socks. I have socks that say badass on them.
All right. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I know you played golf and you skied. I mean, you were really athletic. So I'm kind of wondering, you told me that you spent a lot of years being sedentary. You got a job and a family, and you were doing all these things. And so when you went back to the gym at 71, did you still feel a connection sort of with that athletic part of yourself from earlier in your life?
Well, I did have some connection, but I was not as strong in the movements as I had been because, if you're taking ballet and other things like that, there are rigors, there's structure and there's warm up, training, etc. And so I just needed to translate that into the gym so that I could have the structure in order to be able to do the things properly.
But in terms of your mindset, it sounds like you still felt sort of connected to yourself as an athlete or thought of yourself as an athletic person at that
Yeah,
point. Is that, yeah. And do you think that was important or helpful in getting started again?
I think so because I've always felt that nothing is impossible. I can do almost anything. And in many cases, some people say, no. Okay, I can accept a no, but give me a chance.
Does that motivate you when someone says you can't do that?
Oh, oh yes. Oh, yes. My parents were very strong. My father was a great athlete. My mother was not an athlete, but she walked a lot. She was first generation born in this country of Italian parents. So she helped them, took care of them. And then my father died when I was 16, when the polio epidemic of
Wow.
55. So mother had to go to work, and she did. She had never worked a day in her life. She was not trained for that, but she did. And she walked to work every day, came home, let her dogs out, went back to work. So, if I could be half the person she was, she lasted till 105.
Wow. You come from some tough stock, Rosemary.
Yeah.
Plus Boston. I
Well,
mean, anyone from Boston already has an advantage in terms of toughness, I think.
and weights. Oh, I got my first introduction to weights is when I was going to school. I had to take the subway and the bus, and if I got a seat, then I got all the books. So I would sit with books piled up to my eyes while the rest of my classmates were holding on to the straps to be able to stand upright as the subway trolley moved.
Strong going all the way back.
Yeah. Well, it's a blessing to be able to do that.
It is. I didn't feel strong when I was younger. I was athletic, but I didn't feel strong. I did a little bit of lifting when I was like 13, and I really enjoyed that, but that was the only real opportunity I had back then. In my case, I was coming of age in the 80s, and there were girls' sports, but they didn't understand at that point that women are more prone to things like ligament injuries. I was running track, I was running cross country, I was doing gymnastics, but we weren't doing any strength training. And I suffered the consequences. I have bad knees. I've had knee surgeries and torn ligaments in both knees, but I didn't feel strong. And so for me, getting strong has been so empowering. And I would imagine it has been for you too, only because you came back to it, later in life. And we can talk more about that. But it sounds like you have felt strong all along in some ways.
Well, I've felt strong all along, and I'm grateful for the strength because that enables me to do things. For example, I have she's 6-year-old great granddaughter. I was at her birthday party about a year ago, and I was standing on the patio about 2 steps down from the dining room door. She came flying through the dining room door and said, "Nana, catch me." Very fortunately, I was able to grasp the ground with my feet like I would in a deadlift, and I braced my core and caught her. And she said, "Oh, thank you. You can put me down now." And I did. I did not end up on the pavement with my head smashed because I train. So
Preach. Keep preaching on that.
seriously, and my doctor about my bones, oh, you're all green. You don't need to worry about that.
So your
So
bone
that's
density is great.
yeah, that's so exciting. I mean, and I see other people my age and they're not able to do things. They even ask, "Don't you have the usual aches and pains of age?" I go, "What's that?"
Well, if you don't have any aches or pains, I'm pretty envious of you. I mean, I feel like every morning I wake up and I'm not sure what it's going to be, but there's always going to be something that's, a little achy or a little twingy or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, all right, that's fine. I'm just going to get on with it. And it goes away eventually,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, occasionally I'll sleep wrong and my shoulder will bother me.
Right.
And right now I have two baby kitties that are like 12 weeks old.
Oh.
And they're sleeping with me and they're using my bed as a trampoline but they end up curled up on me or beside me.
So going back to the first time you were introduced to competing, you said you were kind of horrified by the idea. So first of all, I love that it seems like these trainers and these coaches were so supportive, which is
Yeah.
really refreshing. They approached you and said, "I want you to deadlift." You didn't say, "Hey, what's that barbell?" Like they were like, "Let's deadlift," and then let's try competing. But you said you were horrified, or what? So tell me more about that. Like, why did you react the way you did, and what
Oh,
convinced you to try it?
the fact that he thought that I could do that, that I would go up on a platform. I didn't even know what a powerlifting meet was. Why? How would I want to do that? And he convinced me it was a good idea to
Did you get to
try.
see him? Did you get to see him meet before you actually did
No,
one? Wow, so you just jumped in completely into the deep
I
end.
was probably the third person on the platform that day. There were lighter weights than me going. I just looked out, and the coach would not let me watch anybody else lifting for fear that I might try to copy that person.
Mm.
So he kept me behind the curtain and then chalked me up when the time came, and we got out there, and he just let me go, and the judge gave the commands. I did it and came off and had to undo my belt because when you set a record, they always check your belt, and if it's a squat, check the wristbands. So I got used to that, and I went.
You've set a few records, Rosemary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's easy to do that when you're my age and nobody else is lifting.
I hear you, and I have sort of experienced the same thing that you were the only one competing in your age and weight group. And so, you get the medal, and then you sort of question, does it mean anything? Because I was the only one. But I don't know where you are with it. Where I've come to with it is I was there. I showed
Yes.
up. I'm doing this. Like I'm winning just by the fact that I'm doing this. You are, oh my gosh, you are so winning by the fact that you are doing this. And, you earned it. You 100% earned it. And
Well, it's interesting that at Nationals this year, a lady whom I had never met before came up to me and the day before the meet and said, I wanted to meet you. Can I have a picture with you? She said, you're lifting with the butterflies, the lightweights, and I'm lifting with the Clydesdales, the heavyweights. She was a lovely woman from Ohio, big, tall, like you would envision a farmer from the Midwest. Well, the next day, she had a 264-pound deadlift at age 74. So I was excited for her. And when I go to sign up for a meet, at the table where you give all of your information and then you also have your clothes and equipment checked out, you're going to squat? Why would I not squat? Well, you know, 86. And I can almost do an Asian squat, where I just sit down almost on the floor.
ass to grass,
So,
as they say.
yes, I
Yeah.
do that with the TRX. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I use TRX squats that way. So it helps. So,
I know some people have, hip issues that they've accumulated over time, and so that they have a harder time squatting. So for sure, I mean, I don't want to say you're the exception, but you're definitely, a little bit unusual in that at your age that your hips are just doing it.
Well, I think it's one because I didn't start till later, so I didn't get a lot of injuries in my younger years. And I had good coaches
Hmm.
who taught me safety so that I wouldn't be hurting myself. Because if you hurt yourself, then you lose time. And that's not a good thing.
Well, yeah, losing time is no fun for anybody who's training, but especially, for
Yep,
us, it's like it just, time is so precious as we get
it
older.
is. It is.
The
I
things we
find
wish we
that.
knew when we were young.
Yeah, well, and now I'm using a lot of time. My current coach, who is remote, uh, and who incidentally did fly to Pittsburgh to be with me for my meet, he has me doing things that take me close to 2.5 hours for a workout. Typically, I'm lifting like 10 tons a week with only 3 days of lifting, and it's like, what?
And it's nuts.
But it's just cumulative volume. You can see it in the app that we use, Train Heroic, which is an app.
Yeah.
And as I put each weight in, it calculates and it tells me how many pounds I have lifted that day, which is encouraging. One day I got a text from the app that said, "Congratulations, you've reached 250,000 pounds. That's equivalent to 5 killer whales," or something like that.
I love it.
So that's it. I'm not that I'm going to go around lifting whales, but that's
Could be
it.
fun.
Put it in a different perspective.
Yeah. I love that. How many elephants did I lift today?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So
Now, you've told me that you read a note from Eric, your original trainer, is it?
yes,
Every week, every time you compete. So tell me more about that. What's
I have this packet that I take to a meet that has Eric's encouragement and Evan's how to train for your first meet and what to do and the whole thing. Anyhow, Eric basically said, I know how you work, and you have seen success and failure in front of your teammates, and now in front of other people. You'll see how, what you have accomplished that they haven't done. And I know you'll be successful. I just don't have the right exact words in front
No,
of
but
me
that's
on that.
beautiful. So but it puts you in that success mindset.
Yeah, and I usually look toward the back of the room and I can visualize Eric at the back of the room and know that he's with me. So,
That's beautiful. I love that.
yeah. I am known in my church as a worker. But when I'm going to a meet, my pastor invites me up to the front of the church and asks everybody in the whole congregation to join him in giving me a blessing. Part of the words were almost like as if God is right beside me to help me. But, I do the work, but I'm blessed in doing it.
Feeling that whether if it's your faith and you feel that, you have God with you, or if it's the community of your congregation, or if it's for the people that are not religious, your friends, your family. I mean, I've gone through many phases during my competitive, career so far of different mindsets and things that I focused on. And I mean, I still feel a lot of that, that support, but I went through a period where I would really visualize all the people that love me and that I love literally sort of helping me with the weight.
Yep.
So
Well, at Nationals this year, my daughter flew with me to Pittsburgh, and my son drove from New Jersey 5 hours to watch me lift for the first time in person. So it was really nice having those two out there, and I could actually hear them cheering me on. So that was really fun.
And is that the first time that they either or both of them had seen you compete, or had they been to competitions of yours in the past?
My daughter has been to most of my competitions because she's usually driving me. She doesn't want me driving that far by myself. So she'll go with me. And my granddaughter actually went to the first one with me. But this time it was my son who had never seen me lift. He had seen videos, but not in person. So that was kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, how did that feel to you? Were you nervous about that at all, or did you just feel really excited and happy to have him watching?
Oh, I was excited and happy to have him there. I mean, he drove 5 hours to see me lift. That was
Well,
something else. Yeah.
you've been
And
his mom for a long time, and I'm sure that he was very happy to do that to support you.
well, and he sells industrial linens to homes, hospitals, et cetera. And he convinced one of the people from a convalescent home or whatever to get exercise for her people. And their goal was going to be to lift 45 pounds within a year. So he was passing on, if my mom can do it, maybe someone else can.
That's wonderful.
Speaking of that, there was a study done, I believe, at Tufts University in 2009 about aging people, 90-year-olds in a nursing home. And they were given certain exercises over a period of something like 9 or 10 weeks. And they could gain muscle mass and lose body fat in that period. So, and I showed that to my doctor, and she was so excited. She says, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to use that."
Yeah, I wish that the physiotherapists and the people on the side of exercise science and the medical community could intersect and coordinate more with knowledge, because it's not their fault. They're not taught this in medical school, so that needs to change. But yeah, I mean,
They're now starting to realize that, okay, over 60, you do need to do something, and weights are good. The more weights, the better.
absolutely. And like you said, I mean, there is no upper limit. I think people thought there was, but there isn't. Even into your 90s, you can still put on muscle mass if you challenge your body
Yeah.
and have protein. That's the recipe, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you know of Edith Traina?
No.
She was a dancer. She started lifting, I believe, in her 50s with a community of like-minded women in Florida. She was a power lifter. We had COVID, and after COVID, she came back training 3 times a week. Age 100, she deadlifted 100 pounds. She's in the Guinness Book of Records.
That's actually a perfect segue. I was going to ask you because we competed together again where we met in 2019 in Las Vegas at Nationals, and then we had COVID came along, and you took some time off, right, during
I
COVID.
did, well, the gym's closed,
Right.
and so I couldn't do anything. The best that I could do for deadlifting was in my backyard with 2 cement blocks and a piece of metal fence to do deadlifts.
You actually did
Fortunately,
that? You did
I
that?
did.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah, I,
what a
I
great
couldn't I
hack.
couldn't squat because I wasn't putting that bar on my back, but
Sure.
I could do deadlifts with that. I wore gloves, of course, because those fence posts are not kind to your hands.
Yeah.
But I did that, and then I had bands that some I would put around the leg of my sofa and use, and some I had pillars in my front entry, and so I could put the bands around them like you would against a machine at the gym or something like that. So I kept a little bit of training, but I developed vertigo. And while I didn't have a big COVID, I had, I think, small variation.
Hmm.
Anyhow, I did develop fluid in my ear, and that caused vertigo. So to this day, I use nasal spray to combat it because I wanted to get back into lifting, and I was afraid that I would fall backwards if I didn't have my balance. So once I got that under control, I started back.
Okay, yeah. So your break was really just your body said, you can't do this right now, but you wanted to. You just were waiting, sort of, for the opportunity for your
Yeah,
body to cooperate again. Yeah.
yeah. And
Well, I'm,
so I
I'm glad
started.
you. Yeah. Glad you're back.
Yeah, I moved at that same time because my daughter, it's an hour and a half to get to see me if something happened. So I sold
Yeah.
my house and then moved out to hers.
Uh-huh.
And I have my own place on her property, but she has a runner's gym. She runs marathons and things like that. And I'm, not into that. So I go 10 miles into town and I have a nice athletic club there. It's not a powerlifting club. It's
Hmm.
a fine private club, but I think I might have convinced the owner to get a second platform.
Ooh.
Fingers crossed. So they are supportive. The owner came around measuring the other day while I was in the squat rack, so that was exciting. And I have I have some good support from the people I train with, just around me, but not with working with me. I have a deputy sheriff, an emergency room physician, a canine patrol person, and a fireman.
All men.
All men around. Yeah.
So I want to talk about that for a second because I know that's another thing that a lot of women are intimidated by. They look at the lifting area tends to be dominated by men. They feel intimidated. They feel like they're going to be judged or like the guys are, going to be mean or I don't even know exactly what the fears are, but there's a lot of it. Let's talk about that for a minute. What is it like to train with those guys? How do they treat you? How's that experience been?
They asked me to check their form. There are so many men who come in and they put a lot of weight on the bar and they squat in such poor form, it scares me. They don't really get a squat. They're bending their knees.
Quarter squat,
And
eighth squat.
yeah. And then in bench, some of them, again, put a lot on and they do rapid reps and they're not even using leg drive. So it's not a Larson press either. So I think, oh, please.
I love that these guys are asking you for advice. That's great. So, what would you say to a woman who is feeling intimidated or embarrassed or whatever?
Well, don't worry about it. They're more interested in seeing themselves in many cases, what they're doing. Just claim your space, do your thing.
I found that especially younger guys, if they know that you're older and you're doing your thing, they respect it. They're like, "Huh, that's cool." Even if they're keeping to themselves. I've never had a man be rude to me or treat me like I didn't belong in a gym. I know they're out there, and I know some women do, and I think younger women have more of that problem sometimes. But I feel like as we're getting older, people notice when older women get going in the gym. It's a good thing.
Oh, yeah. And then I have my tripod, where I'm trying to get something that I can send to my coach. And they respect that too. They stay out of the way. So,
Let's talk about that. That's a perfect segue. You started with a new coach this year, right, Kyle?
January.
Okay, who is a remote coach, which was new for you.
Mm-hmm.
Remote coach, meaning that he's not where you are. He gives you program, presumably. You do the stuff he tells you to do. You film it. You send him video so he can check your form. You communicate electronically or whatever. How has that been for you? How do you feel about it? Is it working for you? Any advice you would give, about finding a remote coach? How did you find him?
I found him the meet in December when Evan was coaching me. And Evan doesn't like to do remote. He's a hands-on person. And, obviously I'm not driving an hour and a half each way to train with him 4 days a week. So he recommended Kyle, and I met him at that meet. Also met two of the people he was coaching at that meet. They both liked what he did. They were both very successful, and he was very supportive. And I find that to be true, whether it's communicating electronically or whatever, or after I hadn't seen him for 6 months, meet in Pittsburgh to coach for the nationals. That it was very nice that he was willing to come there. But of course, I hired him with that intent.
Hmm. To coach you for nationals.
Yes,
Where
and
is
I
he
wanted him
based?
to be. He's based in Eugene, Oregon, near the
Okay.
University of Oregon.
Okay, so he went all the way across the country for you for that meet.
Too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about nationals because I just think it's the coolest thing. You celebrated your 86th birthday this past summer by going to nationals and setting some world records. So, what was that like for you?
Oh, it was great. It was what I wanted to do. I got there and I weighed in beautifully. I mean, it was my weight class is 67.5 and I was 65.1. So that was exciting because I had flown across the country and I worried about water weight. When it came time to meet my coach the night before, we went through the whole venue and checked everything out. And then the next morning met and started the lifting. People were very, very exciting. You know, they were cheering. My goal was the world records. And I was successful. And then then had the medal ceremony, and that was a big deal. Met some really nice people in my flight, and they're in their 40s, young women. Some of them went on to Worlds, but I still follow them and see them.
I don't know how many lifts you attempted. I know sometimes you hit what you want to hit and then you stop. You don't always try to do all 9 lifts. I've seen that, but did you do that in this case? And what numbers did you end
In
up?
this case,
What were the records that you hit?
I went for 9 lifts. So my first squat got killed for depth, which was a surprise, but I worked on that, and ended up with 115.5 pounds for the third. My bench a few weeks before aggravated my shoulder. So I did my first bench, and then the second 2 got red lighted. So one counted, and that was only 71 pounds, I believe. And then deadlift went beautifully. Everyone I did was successful, and so the last one was, I think, 204 pounds. Got 3 medals because I had signed up for not only full power raw, but I also signed up for bench only and deadlift only.
For those who are newer to powerlifting or don't know much about it, full power means you're doing all 3 of the lifts: squat, bench press, and deadlift. But in most federations, most meets, you have the option to just do bench press, just do deadlift, or do push pull, which is bench and deadlift with no squat. Or you can do full power, which is what Rosemary was talking about, which is all 3. I've always been very annoyed by the fact that there is no squat only or squat variation, because squat is my favorite lift. But deadlift is your favorite, right?
It is, yeah.
Now, I know you qualified for Worlds at this meet. It was in Argentina, but you opted not to go to that. Any particular reason you decided out
Well,
not to?
it's quite an honor to get even a text to be asked to join the team.
Absolutely.
But I had just spent a lot of money going from home to Pittsburgh, hotel, flew my coach out there, and all that goes with that. And I was the only one my age and my class. So I figured, how many other people are there in the world that might be there? I couldn't find anyone, so I thought, I don't want to spend all that money. And maybe get 2 kilos more or not. I've got Worlds. Let's be happy with that. Have a good off season. Come back next year. See how I do.
Well, that was actually where I was going to go next. Yeah, what is your training looking like now, and what is next for you? What's in the plan for age 87?
I'm planning to compete again in June. It'll be a new federation for me because the people that I started lifting with have changed federations. But it'll be the same location. And I'm familiar with their style, and they run beautiful meets. So I'll sign up for that when the time comes. But right now, my coach is just working on various things with me so that I I do squat, bench, and deadlift, but I do a lot of different other exercises which will assist me in those, as you well know, in those movements. So, but I'm averaging about 10 tons a week lifting. So that's the goal for 87.
So, where is that meet going to be?
Newport, Oregon.
In Oregon. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a national meet or that's a local meet you're planning to do in
I haven't looked at it, the Federation's information, but I believe that I can set national records there and possibly world, but I'm not sure. I know they do have world at some local areas, but we'll see. I just want to get out and do a good job. And if it's a medal, it's a medal.
You always do a good job, Rosemary. Again, you're so inspiring to watch because it's anyone who goes and looks at any of your lifts. I know you're not huge on social media at this point, but you're very technical. One can see the precision and the attention that you pay to what you're doing.
That's the idea. That's where you see my stick figure. If you see
I
a
love
stick
that. So
figure
you have
doing
that in
that.
your head. I mean, you're doing this
Yeah.
sort of physics thing in your head. It's great. I think some people might find that really helpful, especially if they're newer, that to think about it that way because it just simplifies everything down to this sort of very basic geometry, that you should be
Yeah.
aspiring to. Yeah, that's great. Well, I think we're gonna start wrapping it up soon, but I know that even at my age, and I'm coming up on 60 now, like I said earlier, like every day kind of tends to greet you with a new ache or pain of some kind. At least me. And it's like, what's it going to be today? And so I think a lot of people feel that and have trouble moving past it. Some people sort of let that stop them. I mean, I don't let it stop me, but I'm just kind of curious if you have that and how do you work with that?
I get up slowly. That's why I don't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning anymore unless I really have to. When I get to the gym, I start by foam rolling. And then I do a series of body weight stretches, exercises, 90-90 and V's and W's with the arms. Do some dead bugs. And then I use bands to do pull aparts and all, and do some rotator extensions side to side so that I basically warm up. And then when I get down to the squat rack, I like to just do body weight squats a little bit so that the body is going to be used to doing that, only it's going to have some weight on it. So that helps. So then do my workout, and after the workout, I lay down on the floor and I do a series of stretches.
So it sounds like you would advise people just really be mindful of the warm up, pay attention to
Indeed.
it, do it. Don't just start squatting or whatever, deadlifting.
No, 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 no. No, no.
Yeah.
The warm up and the cool down, for me, are very, very basic and important. And that's why I typically don't hurt. And then after I get out to my car, I'll have a couple of rice cakes and my protein, and then go about errands because I come into town only once a day. I live in the mountain forest, so I drive down into town. It's about 10 miles, and I do errands after my gym. Then I go home and do whatever else I have to do. I have full days, and I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, you're busier than a lot of people half your age, and it shows. You're just vibrant.
Well, if you don't do it, you die.
Use it or lose it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How do people react to you doing this lifting at your age? What do you think people don't understand or get wrong about being an older athlete?
They don't know what it is at all. They have never seen it. And so I try to educate them. So one of my friends wrote a really nice article in the local newspaper. So many people have seen that, and now they know. And then people see me at the gym who have never known me at all. Now they see what I do, and they'll follow me.
Have you found that people are inspired by or otherwise find you to be a role model?
Oh, yes, I think that's my job. I want to
Talk.
inspire others to move, to invest in themselves. Go get a personal trainer. to learn how to do the movements correctly so there's no injury. Some of the classes are great for the community, but I think one-on-one is kind of important, at least starting out.
We've hit on this a little bit already, but there are probably people listening to this who think that they are too old and it's too late for them to start strength training. And I'd like to know what you would say to those people.
It's never too late. I think I have that on one of my social media pages. I think on my Facebook page might have that. It's just never too late to start. And that's becoming a popular thing nowadays. If you focus on it, you can do anything.
So, last question, because I'm sure you've inspired lots of people here. Where can people find you? Are you on social media? You mentioned your Fit Nana page, so just tell people where they can find you. If to the extent that you are followable, where can they follow you?
Well, I don't post much, but I have Rosemary Nichols at Facebook. And then I have Nichols Rosemary on Instagram. And then again on Facebook, it's Fit Nana.
Okay. We'll link to all of those in show notes so people can find you and follow you. And
Yeah.
they can look for you if they happen to be in Oregon. What federation are you lifting in next year?
It's NPL, National Powerlifting League.
Okay. So hopefully anyone in Oregon can track you down. And it's been such an honor and a pleasure to talk to you today. So thank you for taking the time, and just wishing you the best of success and another 20 years of lifting if possible.
Well, at least through my 90s. Maybe I can be like Edith and make 100.
I feel like you're not going to stop, Rosemary. So thank you.
Thank you, Miriam.